Hello? 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 When I do that, it's because that's what our cat does. He walks around only in the middle of the night and just yells, hello, 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 hello. What is up, guys? Welcome back. Okay, so if you've been keeping up on my Instagram stories, you might already know that this week has been really hard. My son has been sick for like a week and he was getting better, and then suddenly he started getting these ferocious fevers. We took him to the doctor and he has a double ear infection. And then even though we were giving him all of the medicine and doing all the right things, yesterday his fever spiked again and he just wouldn't sleep. And I really want to thank so many of the people who have DM'd me on Instagram, just being empathetic. I appreciate all of you with your recommendations and your stories and stuff. Like, it makes honestly, such a huge difference for me. I just, like being able to have a little bit of levity and joke around. Plus, yesterday, oh my God, it's moments like these where I wish that I shared his face on social media. I don't want to do that, but just imagine this for a second. A cute baby with gigantic, outrageously rosy cheeks because he had a fever, and just this like cool rag folded up and put on his head, and he looked like a little, like, my friend said like a wartime bonnet is what it looked like, or like a Professor Quirrell, and then he had like a bib around his neck and then a blanket pulled up on it, and when I was feeding him applesauce, it was just like, oh, it was the cutest thing in the world, and we actually got him to laugh for like the first time all day. Anyway, today, I thought about just taking the day off, and I know a lot of you guys are like, Kokie, take a day off, but I'm gonna take Friday off. That's not a big deal. Like, I've already got it scheduled and stuff, but I have help today. My mother-in-law has been amazing, and so I really wanted to just make something beautiful happen on my face today and do something fun. And yesterday I got a PR box from Kokie, and they sent me a couple of their like bestsellers for me to try. So you guys know I love their foundation, their Skin Perfect HD. I will pull her out. I thought I already had it out. And we will play with some other stuff that I have from Kokie, because they have sent me some really, really good stuff. They're just kind of a hidden gem at the drugstore, and I used to think they were only at Sally's, but I saw them at Rite Aid recently. But they sent me this artist palette in the colorway Goddess, and this strobing palette in the color Way, I don't know about that actually. Get the glow. So the artist palette here is just these gorgeous warm tones with some pretty mattes, some shimmers, and a couple of satins. We haven't played, if I'm not mistaken, we haven't played in like a really warm palette in a while, and this just looks really, really pretty, and it really goes well with this strobing palette that I think I'm gonna be able to get a good amount of blushing, bronzing, highlighting tones out of this that go with that pretty well. And I'll shop my stash to fill in the blanks as needed, but I just thought it'd be fun to play and chat and hang out today, so that's what we're gonna do. Let's jump in. Actually, I'm gonna start with something that will make my skin look a little bit dewy to start with, and I'm going to go with the Becca Light Shifter. It's just, typically I would, before I get on camera, do my skin prep, and I did my skin prep like a while ago, so all of my sunscreen and everything is already on, so I want just a little bit of extra slip on my face before I apply my foundation. Just adds a little something, and it helps the foundation go on a little bit thinner. How are you guys doing? I am having just an overwhelming amount of gratitude right now for the help that I'm able to get now that we live up here. I was, content to be very self-sufficient when we were living in Texas, but I also am one of those people who has a lot of trouble asking for help. And so now that I have that help from my family, from Mike's family, my extended family, it really makes all of the difference in the world. Just being closer to family, it just makes it so much easier to have a baby. because of course it's mutually beneficial. My mother-in-law just absolutely loves being with him. You know, I keep apologizing. I'm like, oh, he's been so grumpy. She's like, I'll take him however I can get him, you know, because she's already raised 2 boys. And we found out that he's getting a little boy cousin today, so that's really exciting. And God, look at that. Wow, 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 wow. So everything that I have from Kokie has been sent to me by Kokie, and they are a drugstore brand that is proudly cruelty-free. I think I originally saw them on Tati's channel, and I also see Kelly Gooch really feature them quite a bit. But look at how that foundation, which I always say I misjudged initially because I was like, it's an HD foundation, it's gonna be full coverage matte. It's so flexible in coverage, and I do have my window open, and so I feel like that tends to expose me as far as if I haven't blended something perfectly, or you know, if the coverage is a little inconsistent or the shade match is a little inconsistent kind of thing. But I think that that actually works just fine because it is such a darn good shade match. I have the shade 10W. I cannot find my Pat McGrath. We're going to just move on, and I'm going to use Kosas instead. It's a lovely consistency for this because it's not super full coverage. This whole him being sick thing is very new because of course we've been in quarantine ever since he was born pretty much, and we haven't been exposed to any germs until he started going to daycare. And the first time he got sick from daycare, he really didn't take it as bad as I did. He was sick for like 3 days, moved on, and I was sick as a dog for like almost 2 weeks. You guys saw me. That was the Dayquil days recently. This time he got sick and he seemed to get better, and I only had it for a few days. Mike had it for a couple of days, and then it seemed like it was getting a lot better. But I guess he inherited my natural susceptibility to earaches, because I remember having earaches as a kid, and I mean, that pain is so distinct, it's so memorable. It's like burned, seared into my consciousness because it's just so specific. Having a pain that's that strong and so pinpoint in that area, and he had it in both ears. Ugh. And then the nostalgia of smelling that amoxicillin pink syrup. I said, Mike, do you want like a wave of nostalgia? And he was like, yeah. And I opened the bottle and I had him smell, and he goes, whoa. I was like, I know. It's that just like bubblegum, weird, like too sweet kind of like, you know, juicy fruit kind of smell that they mix with the amoxicillin. And yeah, very little has changed since my earache days. Okay, I'm gonna grab the setting powder. One amazing major improvement to my life lately is that we got outdoor furniture for our porch. When we moved in, they took everything. They took more than, I mean, we've been over this. You know, the previous owners took the curtain rods. They left a lot of things too that didn't make sense to leave, but you know, and I got a lot of comments from you guys being like, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. But you know, after what we've been through and the laws in New Jersey about like buying and selling a home, the actual buyer has just about no enforceable rights. And so we were just so exhausted by the entire process that we were like, I'm just not gonna go to bat about the curtain rods. But they also took all of the like custom built-in furniture that had been part of the outdoor deck, you know, the patio. And so we just, you know, had been sitting out there on the flat patio, but as it's gotten nicer outside, we got very motivated to pick out some furniture. And so we dropped a pretty penny at Crate and Barrel, but got this just absolutely beautiful and very comfortable and very like high quality outdoor seating situation. And it has changed our lives. Like literally, my mother-in-law comes, you know, a couple days a week anyway, but like last Friday when it got delivered, my father-in-law showed up. He was just like, I want to come sit on your furniture. And we all had a glass of wine and, you know, just sat and appreciated it, put Simon in his little sun hat and its little sunglasses. And I would say it's the little things, but I mean, I totally understand that that's like a pretty big purchase. It was definitely like when it happened, but I mean, the quality of life upgrade of having a place to sit while it's so beautiful outside is just, it's fantastic. And, you know, all of our friends back in Austin, not that they're like complaining or anything, but you know, they're sending us pictures of themselves out on their porches or whatever, and you can just tell it's really hot outside by the way everybody's dressed and stuff like that. And I remember I asked a friend of ours, I was like, so, you know, what's the temperature right now? Which I could have easily looked at my phone, but I just asked. And they're like, oh, you know, it's like 80. It's like, no offense, guys, but I don't miss it. I do not miss that summertime. Well, even the springtime. I mean, it's beautiful, but you just, it's the same way that sometimes when you live in a colder climate, fall starts to get really nippy really quick and you're like, ooh, I feel the dread of winter coming, kind of. Like, that's how the spring feels in Austin. You're like, it's gorgeous, but it's way too early in the year for it to be 80 degrees outside. And I'm just, I mean, you know, Mike, even after yesterday being just so hard, it was so hard. When your kid hurts, you hurt. And this is just a thing I have learned. I'm like, why do I have this like knot in my chest all the time right now? And it's just because when he's in pain, it's like he's like biologically connected to me. But even after all that, Mike was like, God, today felt like I moved to paradise. He's like, this weather is just incredible. And I have been playing catch up so badly because I got so behind because they wouldn't let him go to daycare and everything. And it's just, I don't know, I'm, you know, sitting with him and taking care of him all day, no complaints, but I ended up working so much over the last couple of days trying to make up for lost time that I didn't even get a chance to go outside until it was like evening, but it was nice and warm outside. It was so nice. I'm actually going to use the, oh yeah, actually we have this Strobe Palette. I'm gonna see what this bronzer looks like. Whoa, I don't think that's a bronzer. Okay, these are really, really pretty. And one of these is a cream, which is unexpected. It's very, very gold. These are beautiful. I do have reservations sometimes about highlighting palettes because a lot of times it'll only be like one shade in it that really works for me, you know, and so the other ones will be like too dark or just, you know, not usable for one reason or another. Like, I don't think that cream is really going to be flattering on my skin. It's just a little too yellow, but when you covered that up, like, I think I can get use out of all of those. That one's more of a bronzer, the other is more of a blush, and I can kind of mix it with some other stuff. Plus, you know, we're talking about drugstore beauty. I know that we always say things should be good regardless of the price, but if you're buying, you know, an $80 palette and you're only using 2 shades, that's one thing. But if you get something from the drugstore and you're really, really excited about a couple of the shades and the pans are this big, I do think that there is kind of a double standard there, and that's okay. So let's see. I need a brush. I need a better brush. I need a brush that we're actually going to do the interchangeable thing here. So let's take a little bit of that bronzy shade that's a highlighter and do a little bit of that. Okay, so yeah, it's quite highlighty, but I think that just a little bit of it is going to look very pretty because I've always liked to use something that's a little bit shimmery to aid in mixing. So that's very pretty. And when it's nice and diffused on the skin, it doesn't look like eyeshadow. It's not so reflective that it's distracting. You know, it makes my skin look a little more blurred. Well, in the spirit of that, let's go in with this kind of coral blushy highlight and see how that looks. And then we'll do like a matte blush on top. So not as much pigment as much, you know, color payoff. It is more of a highlighter, but super pretty nonetheless. I'm going to use that as a blender for my blush kind of thing, but you know, don't want to go too overboard, but it's pretty. It's very pretty. The other thing I'm concerned about is kind of weird. I don't seem like I can like get my chin to blend with my neck for some reason. I don't know why this looks so dark. Maybe it's just the lighting. Either way. And in that spirit, I'm going to go with my Aether Amber palette because it's just, it's really the perfect peach. And I want something that's going to be versatile enough to go with a warm eye look. In fact, I think I'll do this and then we'll go right into the eyes, and that'll help us decide, you know, if I want to do a different blush color alongside this. It's just such a happy color. Okay, Kokie, don't get too carried away. We might end up wanting to go with another shade. Okay, this is gonna be fun. I haven't played with something in this color story kind of thing in a long time. I mean, look, that's straight up like sherbety orange. What say we start with that tan shade? I have to watch out because have I cleaned my brushes since the Violette video? No, I have not, and so I do have some that are going to be surprisingly blue. I have to be careful and remember to look. I shouldn't say the Violette video, the one from last Friday, where I did use a Violette product, but I was just trying to make use of that sparkly blue. Okay, I wanna do something subtle to start with. So I actually am just gonna go with my finger and use that shade all over. Yeah, it's a nice warm tan. It's a little bit dry, but that's okay. I also think I'm used to using things on top of cream, and I have a powdered face right now. I haven't done that in a while, I feel like. But pretty mattes. Like, matte is hard. Matte's a hard thing to really nail, and maybe I'm flattering myself, but maybe they watched that video where I said that the one thing that I can't seem to find at the drugstore is a really good eye product, because then they sent me what appears to be a pretty darn good eye product. Yeah, that's actually really pretty. I didn't go in with that sherbety orange because I know it's gonna turn like very orange on me, because like look how orange that's going, and it's just a warm tan. And these are pretty darn saturated, but I feel like they do blend really nicely, because you know, you can always tell on my skin is almost like white, like completely white. And so things that are really saturated can sometimes be really overwhelming on my complexion, but I think that like looking at this color story, this is going to look great on a lot of skin tones. Like these get really, really good and rich, you know? So I'm excited to play with the shimmerier ones too. So I'm gonna dip into this like pinky shimmer here and use that. Ooh, the shimmer now. Okay. That's nice. Usually a shimmer or a satin, you know, doesn't love always to pick up on a brush, but that is super satisfying. Okay, that makes me want to play more in those. And I want to bring the rosiness in, because of course I do. And there's actually a menagerie of orangey stuff, rosy stuff in here. So I'm gonna dip into this one that's a little bit cooler toned, just to wade in carefully here. Like, does that necessarily make sense? I'm not sure, because I'm putting it on top of orange. They might just kind of cancel each other out, but I'm not mad at it. This is a fun little palette. I'll have to look at the price on it for you guys, because they sent it to me, but I doubt it's crazy expensive. And it's just got a lot of really practical shades in it if this is your like temperature story. And then let's see, this really seems to go with that, a really nice kind of berry shade, and I'll use that on the lid, and then we can kind of, I'm actually just gonna stick my finger in that. It goes a little copper actually, look at that. So they do, interesting, that one, that's unexpectedly copper. Because it looks very, I guess it's because it's next to a more copper shade. That one looks a little bit more orange. Harvesty. This is a very fall toned palette. Yeah, these shades are really nice and like, I don't know, they've got a nice supple feeling to them. Reminds me a little bit of the PYT Warm palette, but just with a lot more options. And a lot of you guys have been asking me about PYT. You know, they reached out to me before they even launched the brand. And so I was like one of their first people, I think, that they even sent PR to. They were out of Austin at the time. Like, you know, it just felt like a very like local story. And as they've grown. I have done entire videos that were dedicated to PYT and the products that I really like from them and stuff. And then they just did this whole new re-release, and I just hadn't heard from them in a while. And I was about to buy a whole bunch of it, but I thought I would message them and be like, hey guys, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm on your PR list, but I haven't heard from you guys in a while. Are you planning on sending out the new products? Because, you know, if they weren't, I was gonna buy them. They're not expensive. I just didn't want to double up. That's happened to me before. And they just liked my question and never replied. And I was like, okay. And then when I was looking at the actual products, I'm gonna go in with this like satin right here. I think that it's going to not be super sparkly, but it's gonna give me enough, yeah, that's super pretty, enough spreadability. I was actually looking at the products, and you know, the whole thing is they've just re-released them in this big push towards environmental sustainability. And you guys know that I don't necessarily call out every single brand on their sustainability promises, or usually lack thereof, but when a brand does actually make those claims, I go and see what they're talking about, because it's always interesting to see the precedents that are being set, and I don't know, just sort of like the disruptive things that are happening in the industry, and seeing if they're going to have a ripple effect across other brands. Plus I like to be able to talk to y'all about it. I went in there and like, a lot of their stuff is, you know, they'll say like, oh, environmental sustainability, blah, 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 like, you know, waste is whatever. And then like you go in, they're like, this is made from 15% post-consumer plastic. And you're like, really? That was the best you could do? Like, you put all these R&D dollars towards this, and you're gonna like market it as this super duper like environmentally conscious thing, and the only difference that I can detect, some of them are more than that, but like the first one that I clicked on said 15% post-consumer plastic, and I was like, I buy things all the time that are made of virgin plastic. I'm not sitting here being like the most correct person in the world, but you know, I just found it a little odd that was the claim and then that was the result. So anyway, let's go back with that pink. And that's what I'm gonna do my inner corner with. Like, did I plan on doing a one and done eyeshadow look today? Absolutely. But did I get carried away talking? Yeah, absolutely. So this is what we're ending up with today. Actually, I want to take a little bit of something. We're gonna go with that kind of mauvey shade again. Yeah, and just really give me some smoky eyes. I am wearing an outfit that doesn't go with smoky eyes at all, but ask me if I care. I do not care. All right, I'm gonna take the shimmery pearl color and see if that helps me kind of blend this out a little bit. Okay. So they announced the finalists for the Sephora squad yesterday, and I'm not in it, and that's fine. I don't want to go all sour grapes or anything, but it is kind of like a relief, because it'd be one more thing to worry about. Especially because I have so many fantastic partnerships with different brands that like, I feel like that one would kind of like come in and eat all of my attention if I were to have gotten it. So, you know, it's a, what do they say, like a cost benefit analysis. And I think that the universe did me a solid, probably, in letting me just mind my own daggum business. But congratulations to those people. It is well deserved. I only know Makeup Molly. That's the only person I know out of all of them, but still, I just saw a lot of cool inclusivity on there. And honestly, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying like this is an excuse, but it does seem like they are quite interested in having people who have big Instagram presences as well as YouTube presences. And your girl, it just does not exactly have like, you know, I'm very, very proud and happy to have 10,000 on Instagram because I get the swipe up, but like, I'm not interested necessarily in building some kind of Instagram empire. Do you think that I put enough eyeshadow on? I'm also putting highlighter on. Maybe this is the color I'm looking for. Wowzers, how crazy is that? That's what that blush looks like. It's so different, from the way that it looks in the pan. Yep, that's what I was looking for. Bring it on in. This feels like when I used to play with Natasha Denona palettes and I just couldn't make a decision, and so it just ended up really chaotic. Yep, that's what we're doing. All right, let's put some eyeliner and mascara and brows on, and I'll be right back, and we will do some more blush, and we will do some lips, and then I'll give you guys some final thoughts. Yeah. Is this pretty? I can't decide. I think what needs to happen is like a little bit of cool tones. Just a little bit. You guys get to watch me correct in real time here because I don't know, my face just needs a little bit of help wearing these colors. So I'm going in with my Wayne Goss blush palette in Coral Rose, and it just has enough cool tone to it that it'll help blend. And I'm gonna do that also in my eye look here. You know, so it's not so much that you like can't wear certain colors, it's just an awareness of your comfort zone, like what brings things home. And, you know, just including a little bit of that if it's gonna help. And is that better? Cool, all right, I'm gonna give this a little spritz with my Ilia. And then, what do I wanna do on my lips? You know, I realized I hadn't used this in a while. Is that gonna work? This is the Patrick Ta. She's an influencer. So appropriate. There's not really anything to it, you know, other than sparkle, so I think it'll work. Especially since my eyes are a lot. There's really no need for anything else to be a whole lot. Oh yeah, Kokie also sent me a bunch of lip liners, but y'all know I have my home base when it comes to lip liner. If I wanted that to not be a whole vibe, I lost the battle because that's a whole vibe, but I dig it. I like the exaggerated, sorry, my baby's sleeping next door, so, but I do like the exaggerated highlight. I love that texture because, and that's actually, this is from the eyeshadow palette, but this highlight on my lid is from the Strobe Palette. So I'm gonna move you guys out so you can get the whole vibe, and we will discuss final thoughts here on these products. So first let's talk about this here eyeshadow palette. It really felt like I had worked in this before because the formula is so easy. My lips, ugh, my hair's sticking to my lips. It's so easy, and the shades, for being a very warm palette, are very, very intuitive. I always talk about how at the drugstore, a lot of times that's what you are missing out on when you are paying a lower price is, you know, sometimes it'll be packaging, sometimes it'll be quality of formula, and sometimes it'll be innovation of shades. But sometimes you don't really want innovation of shades. Sometimes you're really looking for a straight down the middle bestseller type, you know, pumpkin spice latte, fall vibes, warm palette. And there's absolutely nothing weird about this. And when I say weird, I mean there's no hang-ups. There's nothing that's difficult about it. There are no shades where I'm like, why did they do that? You know, everything about this is extremely wearable, extremely usable, user-friendly, beginner-friendly for someone who's just in the market for a really pretty warm palette that has very satisfying satins, very satisfying shimmers, and very actually easy to work with, blendable mattes. Let me find the price on this because that's the main thing. Because I mean, obviously, you know, we've played with palettes in this color family before. This reminds me of the Solstice palette from Aether. It reminds me, like I said, of the PYT Warm palette. And, you know, it is a very common color story. You see this kind of color story a lot in the fall time gingerbread palette. You know, Too Faced loves to do stuff like this. Tarte loves to do stuff like this. A lot of, you know, this is just a very, very like pretty easy thing to wear. But if you can find something that is just this drop-dead gorgeous color story, and it's affordable, and it's in a formula that's nice, and, you know, some pretty good packaging. I don't love the design on the front. Like, I feel like that's kind of where they phoned it in, but like literally who cares? It's more about like the heaviness of the packaging and, you know, the nice like gold detailing and everything. It feels as nice or nicer than like, you know, Makeup Revolution or something like that. That's just kind of what it reminds me of. But let's see, Kokie Artist Palette. Oh, It's $12.99 at Rite Aid, guys. And they have a few different colorways. So they have one that is a little bit more like tart looking or like Too Faced looking to me, that's in a lot of like peaches and kind of creamy pinks. That's beautiful. Then there's this one, and then they have one that's in more bright shades. It's got like a bright blue and a softer green, a bright pink, soft yellow kind of thing. And that's just going to be a little bit more adventurous. This is a really, really great formula. If, you know, I assume that the formula kind of translates palette to palette, these all being the same kind of, you know, concept, the artist palette. This one being Goddess again. Oh, okay, so there's 4 color stories. There is Utopia, which is the colorful one I was saying. Treasured is another one that's kind of got a little bit more rainbow to it. It's got like a navy in it and stuff like that, but it doesn't have that like bright pink. And then Peachy Queen, and that's super, super beautiful. And that one actually looks like I would like it a lot because it has some beautiful muted cool tones in it, like a lavender and like a lavender gray, beigey color, and just some really, really pretty textures. And then there's Goddess, which is this one. I really think that this is absolutely lovely. I really, really do. So yeah, $12.99 at Rite Aid, $15 on the Kokie website. But you know, if you're near Rite Aid or near a Sally's, you can just go and look at it yourself. And then we have the Strobe Palette, which I hope that you guys were able to see in the 4K of it all, that, you know, the way that these translate on the skin is actually pretty sophisticated. They look like they're going to be really glittery, but they're more of like a nice blurred texture. I wouldn't say that they're, you know, a dupe for an ambient lighting palette, but it is a shimmer that's not going to call out all your imperfections, but when you do concentrate it in one area, you can get a very, very satisfying level of payoff like I got on my eyes. And how much was this guy? The Strobe Palette is $13 on their website, and this was reformulated last year. So there are kind of older ones on other websites for less, but you can get this current one on their website for $13. And the only thing that I'm not a big fan of in this is the cream highlight, just because it is so warm gold, but I just don't like it for me. It would work beautifully on someone else. You know, it's just a little bit too warm for me. This is about what you would expect as far as the drugstore packaging is concerned, but it is really big. Like, I like how big this is. It's, you know, very, it's an ample amount of product. It's not too precious, and the formulas really are beautiful. So as far as the other stuff that I used today that I have used on my channel before, that I've talked about it, but I will recap. The foundation, this stuff is just, it's amazing. It's fantastic. It's just such a good consistency. It has such a good flexibility of coverage. You can still see my freckles and everything. You can almost wear this as like a medium coverage skin tint, but you can also build it up almost to full coverage. It's utterly beautiful. It's $12.99 at Sally's. I love it. It really never complains. I wear it with and without powder. I wear it all the time with like luxury beauty. I think I included this in my affordable luxury video, because if you closed your eyes, you could easily mistake this for like a luxury foundation. And it comes in glass, which is cool. And the powder is really beautiful. It's hard to really like give this, you know, some kind of star rating because it just doesn't complain. There's nothing particularly noticeable about it. It doesn't reflect anything in an annoying way or anything. It's just a translucent setting powder. But if you're in the market for a translucent setting powder and you're already at the Kokie kiosk, you know, it's definitely not a bad one. And the contour palette, man, this one's cool because when you're looking, I mean, it's in a cardboard package. It's definitely drugstore feeling, but the pans are really huge. This does come in 3 colorways. Two. Comes in 2 colorways. There is a deeper, this one's called Universal, which I think is a little bit weird, but they do have a deeper one that I guess they came out with kind of after the fact. And I, you know, don't use this super dark shade right here, super dark. It would just look super dark on me. But the rest of them I get actually a lot of use out of. Like this yellow is good for, again, like trying to bring some of the light back out of my face where things can get kind of dull or over blended. I just really enjoy both of the contour shades, this one being just a little bit warmer, this one being a little bit cooler, and they actually have good pigment to them, and they're all matte, which is lovely because, you know, we see a lot of highlight and contour palettes where the highlighters are all shimmery. Well, you still need help sometimes with pigmented light powders to bring the brightness back into your complexion without adding glitter or shimmer or anything. And these are finely milled. They're very beautiful. You can see like this one has gotten a lot of love from me. I actually use this quite a bit. So if you're in the market for a contour palette, definitely check this out because it's a fantastic deal. I think that this guy's also like 12 bucks. So that's the vibe today, guys. And even though I went kind of OTT, I'm not mad at it at all. I think it's very, very pretty. And I actually really love the saturation that I was able to get out of these eye shades. I really believe that this would work on a lot of different skin tones because the saturation on the shades is so satisfying, and I was really only working in like the lightest shades in the palette. So yeah, that is really, really cool. It's a very like luxurious feeling formula in that sense too, where even when you get into some of the shades that are rich, like richly pigmented, they still blend really beautifully. And I just love, I really do love this like pretty kind of, not necessarily seasonally appropriate, but you know, who cares? Kind of fall toned looking eye, sunshiny eye, a nice warm thing. I think that, you know, these are the shades that, yes, I think they look great on brown eyes, but like when you get into those copper and orange and peachy hues, light eyes, oh my gosh. Jaclyn Hill always comes to mind. So anyway, I've babbled about this enough. Thanks for just letting me have like a fun play with makeup kind of day, and thank you again to Kokie for sending this stuff over so that I can play. If you did enjoy this, guys, give it a thumbs up. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you guys did. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you guys so much. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.